Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, TSP Rav Shiva. I am the spiritual philanthropist. And I said I was going to hold back and not pursue any of these social issues that are defacing humanity. And the reason I'm actually going to do this is because, yes, I am the spiritual philanthropist, and I have some issues with some of the topics that are happening. I have a personal stake involved in these things now because I've been oppressed by the same people. And, people want to think she's crazy until you see that there's a man called Chaim Braverman who is on the FBI, is arrested now. The FBI had contacted Candace Owens and said that we have some information that you're on a list, and she came up as a person of interest. I myself have come up as a person of interest, and I'm sure that when that happens, you get put on a list, and they try to dehumanize you in every which way possible, these certain types of radical Jews. And my social media was completely destroyed. My life was almost completely destroyed. I had my bones broken. They couldn't break my spirit. There's no way in this world that could ever happen. But I'm so happy that she's standing up, and she's standing up very well for herself, using everything in eloquence. And I don't agree with everything she says because she's a religious person. I don't like religion. I think it should all be destroyed. That's my personal view on religion, on all religions. I think it's just a sickness to humanity. But that's my own personal belief. But as being the spiritual philanthropist, I'm spiritual. Extract the religion, get rid of it, and just commune back with nature and God. That's my saying. But here we have these two comedians that are they're not both going against her. There's one Jewish comedian, and the host who's at the very bottom left hand. His name is the other Barack. And I wanted to point out this specific area in this video for a reason, because it kind of depicts everything that this guy, I guess he wants to explain himself here, so it's interesting. And we're going to take a look at it, and I'd love to hear your comments and feedback on what he has to say. So let's get ready to roll.
States side by side, liberation for the West Bank for a free state of Palestine alongside Israel. They're saying.
Hold on a second, guys. Let me fix the actual output and audio here, because I don't want this to be broadcast everywhere. Let me just change this here. I don't want you guys to get an echo or feedback, so bear with me as I straighten this out. Thought I already did this. So, let's see. Hopefully you're getting the right audio at least. Let me check and see if this works now. Okay, that still didn't work. Give me one more second, guys. I think I know what's going on here. Okay, this should have done it. Let's see.
And what is that reference to? Khaybar Yar Yahud?
The
Battle of Khaybar, in which Muhammad came across the Jews and he gave them a choice: convert to Islam or submit and become dhimmis and second-class citizens. And this is what's animated the entire region and the expulsion of Jews throughout all of the Arab countries in the Arab world. And so the need for a sense of Jewish safety in the region, I think, is super important and not to be discounted. And my fundamental point is that I do not think it's occupation that leads to terrorism. It's terrorism that leads to occupation. In other words, the only reason these things perpetuate is because Israel is continually attacked. And if you want this...
Okay, what he just said, does that make any logical sense to you? He doesn't believe that it's occupation that leads to terrorism, but it's terrorism that leads to occupation. So if you were to use that logic and break it down, he's saying that somehow, even before the Jews got there to Palestine and made it Israel, that they were already being terrorized by someone. How does that make any sense? You have to really use your brains here and think about what he says. That it's terrorism that brings about the occupation. Well, that would make sense in this situation then, because the people that first lived there, which were the Palestinians, and then between the United States and Britain during 1948 in the Balfour Declaration, where they interjected the Jewish people into that community because the British had come in there and conquered that whole entire area, and basically colonialism. Whatever they did everywhere else on the planet, they did it there as well, and the United States worked hand in hand with them. People seem to forget that the United States was made up of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants that came from Britain. So of course they're going to work hand in hand. They didn't leave on a war or have complete. There was just like the separation of church and state is all they wanted, and it's not just all they wanted. That's a big thing, for an establishment. But they had something in common. What was conquest and domination? You divide and conquer. So they went into the same area like they went into every other part of the world, created division, and they went in there and conquered it. So when they took over that whole area and decided to give in 1948 to turn Palestine into what it is today, half of it is the Israeli, the state of Israel. That should, give you an idea that is a form of terrorism to the people that are living there. So he's right if he says yes. It's not occupation that creates terrorism. It's terrorism that creates occupation, because it was the terrorists that came in there that started occupying the area. If you were to look at it logically speaking, okay. I know some may disagree, but this is real logic. This is why I study physics, guys, because then you could actually make sense out of personal rhetoric. There's a bias in what he says here.
A solution to stop, you have to have goodwill on the Palestinian side to commit to not wanting to kill the Jews in Israel and attack them. And I think leaving Gaza in 2005 was a perfect example of that. What did happen? I know you've heard these points before, Dave, that greenhouses and infrastructure were left there. Hamas takes over, kills their political opponents, fellow Muslims, Fatah, and establishes a terrorist statelet using all the international aid and funding to fire rockets and attack at Israel, invade Israel on October 7th, breaking a ceasefire. So accountability, I'm not denying suffering of what you're talking about for local populations, but who's accountable for that? And at a certain point, you can't say Israel is.
I want to add on to something that I just said at the end there, which I think is brilliant, which is at the end of the day, there has to be some goodwill from the enemy states of Israel to not want to claim that their whole life mission is to destroy Israel.
I just want you to listen to what he says here and the way he says it, because everything has really deep-seated meaning behind it. People can't say things with confidence if there isn't some personal stake, some feeling of patriotism in some sense, But listen to what he says, and listen to how he says it, and I'll explain it to you afterwards.
Because as long as they continue to feed Israel exactly what it doesn't want to hear, Israel's going to do exactly what they don't want them to do, which is defend themselves, respond when there's war, and not put their arms down. Because if you're giving Israel a green light every single time to respond. All of these attacks, I was speaking last night here in Spain, and I was saying that the main thing that a lot of the enemies of Israel don't understand, and maybe they do understand it because they like the elongated wars, they like, basically delaying as much as possible peace talks and ceasefire agreements, for there to be more of this footage to show to the international community. But the other thing that's really important is every time that an enemy state attacks Israel, they think that what they're doing is loosening this bond and this string amongst Jewish people and Israelis, and what they're doing is they're strengthening it. Are there internal divisions within Israel? Of course. But every single time that you attack, all you're doing is tightening this knot.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, this doesn't make any sense, This is a very strange thing for him to say, and I think it's more manipulative, and it's almost, there's a type of propaganda involved in this, what he's saying here. It's also very slick. He's saying that when the people, whoever wants to attack Israel, that their plan is to break the chain, or the fabric of what bonds Israel. Does that make any sense at all? If you're attacking a country, you're trying to break the relationship between the Jewish people and the state. No, that would be the stupidest reason to fight any war. So that's why it doesn't make any sense. These people are fighting for their lives. It's not to try to break Israel up. It makes no goddamn sense what he's saying. And, people are so ignorant today that they'll... I don't even want to go there, because if I go there, it'll bring another element to this. But I'll get into that element at some point, because it is something that has to be spoken about. But I'll just leave it at what I just said.
And you're giving Israel more and more and more and more and more every time a reason to strengthen its borders, to strengthen its security, and to respond. It's this game of ping pong, and once you fire the ball at one person, they're going to fire right back, because otherwise, if Israel didn't decide to hit the paddle and hit the ball back, then they wouldn't be alive. But that's not an option for Israel. And so just like he said at the end, there needs to be some goodwill for them to not say in their own charter of development in Hamas that their mission is to just destroy Israel and the Jews. Period, end of story. And if the...
Listen, okay, he's making it sound like Israel's such a great place because they're having goodwill. But listen what their goodwill is, okay? And, I'm laughing because I'm thinking how ridiculous this sounds. And if people have to, see this for what it is. Listen to the goodwill.
Charter of the state of Israel was to destroy the entire Palestinian movement and everybody in Hamas. I would say, that's probably not the right thing to say, and I would condemn it publicly, because that's not what I represent. But that's not what Israel represents. You guys understand that if Israel tomorrow, yesterday, wanted to completely wipe out the Gaza Strip, they could.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's goodwill. That's what he's talking about, goodwill right there. Right there, he's in a position to be able to kind of pompously, boastfully say something like that. This to me takes away from his earlier argument and his misunderstanding of what goodwill means. Goodwill to him is having the ability to destroy everyone in an instant. That's what he's saying right now. That's exactly what he's saying. That's a kind of strange thing to say to anyone. That's like a person holding a gun to another person's head and saying, "Look, I'm being nice to you. I'm not pulling the trigger, but you're going to do exactly what I want." That's exactly the mentality here. This is why I get banned a lot, because YouTube is funded by certain people. Social media itself is funded by certain people. I speak truth when I speak, and these cowards know that my truth can seep right through their shit and cut right through it. And that's why that I've been treated the way I've been treated. Now I really don't give a shit anymore. Before I wanted to kind of go the route of spirituality, thinking that would be the way to go. But that is who I am. That is who I am. This aspect of humanity has to be dealt with as well. And being the spiritual philanthropist I am, Rav Shiva, it is my duty to be a part of this conversation, even if they try to single me out. And the only reason that they would do, and I'm not making this up, Candace Owens herself, the guy, Chaim Braverman, who you can't find anything on social media about, but if you look up Haim, Chaim Braverman, just like it sounds, Braverman, he belongs to a group, the Chabad Lubavitch group, and they have this, Rabbi Schneerson have this group of people that are radical Jews. They're also the Jewish Defense League. They basically have unlimited power in Israel and here in the United States, and they may be even backed by some parts of the United States, because everything revolves around money and funding and politics. That's how the world works, if you guys haven't figured that out yet. So they can oust anyone they want and boost anyone they want. So what they did with Candace Owens was they started getting everybody to report all of her videos, so she got demonetized. A little while after, she was able to prove that that's what happened, because it all happened in one day, and then she got remonetized. And then shortly after that, they tried to bring her up on this bullshit that she had claimed something about Hitler, whatever she said about Hitler, but she was only using it within context of an argument, was not in any way, shape, or form giving credibility to the idea of Hitler and what he did, but they took that out of context like usual. These people are so good at manipulating what the message is, what you're trying to say, that they'll do anything. They have the power and the ability to actually, and the all the facilities to utilize to be able to fabricate lies, or basically not only fabricate, but AI can take something and manipulate it and imitate it in some way, but you can kind of put your own idea sewn within it, and it's almost like a form of subliminal messaging. It's almost like that subliminal ideology. And it's a form of propaganda as well, but they use it on social media all the time. But what happened to her is proof of what's happening to me. But I know that these cowards, whoever they are, the only thing they can do is these guerrilla tactics in the dark. If they had brains, they would actually come and speak and have a conversation. But they know they're wrong. That's why they have to resort to guerrilla tactics. That's the reason that they resort to it. So I'm saying that I'm going to start paying attention to this. I'm going to start utilizing who I am in this, and to make sure that the truth comes out when they try to spill lies. Let's listen to what he says here.
You guys think that Israel has unleashed its ultimate military capability? You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind if you think that's the case. They could wipe it off instantly.
There you go, holding the gun to your head, telling you, I could actually pull this trigger and kill you unless you do what I want. That's the mentality of most of the people in Judaism. Right now they agree with this mentality right here. This mentality is not one of goodwill. I'm telling you, it's not one of goodwill. If anybody thinks that that's goodwill, you have to be out of your, I'm not going to say it, out of your mind. You have to be out of your mind. Then you don't know what goodwill is. Wow, if people think that that's goodwill, I can only imagine how they look at life, But that's a very sick and twisted form of what they call goodwill, guys. Wake up. Guys, I'm back. When you saw me when I had Bassem Youssef, that's when you all started coming and subscribing to me. I had to take away from what I was doing because of what I was facing, and I apologize to each and every one of you for not being here. But now I am here. We're going to set the record straight.
That's not their mission. It's not what they're trying to accomplish. We've been through these videos of people talking about the morality. You've heard from IDF soldiers and IDF commanders. You've seen people talk about what they do. You've seen footage of it. You've literally heard testimonies of Palestinians inside of the Gaza Strip thanking soldiers for saving them. What else do you need? Where are these testimonies from Hamas when they're talking about how they prevent the civilian casualty? They don't even let them in the tunnels. They force them to stay upstairs. They hide like rats in tunnels because they want the civilians to die so that most people in the world have the reaction that they do. That's what they're doing.
That's a pretty cheap shot right there, because that's like saying that if you're driving a car and you're going after someone and let's say they do put the children in front of the car, and you're like, oh, well, you did that, so we're going to kill them anyway, but that's going to be because you put them in front of there. But no, you have the actual option and prerogative to slam the brakes and not to kill them. That this whole thing is so twisted that human beings have lost their understanding of life preservation. Their humanity is being completely defaced and destroyed with whatever rhetoric this is that's coming into the world. If there's anything such as evil, it's having this guy's mentality right here. We're holding that gun to your head saying, I could pull the trigger if I want. Guys, wake up. Are you guys all asleep? What's going on here? You guys, whoever agrees with this mentality agrees with the idea of someone having a gun to someone's head saying, I could pull the trigger unless you do what I want. And I'm going to keep running that into your head until you understand how egregious, how horrible, and coercive that is. It's extremely, extremely coercive and abrasive in so many different ways, guys. Wake up.
They're playing string puppets. And the puppets here are the West, and the college encampment protesters, and the Kafia Karens, and the purple-haired people, and Queers for Palestine. That's what they're doing. They're doing a brilliant job of it. But we know the truth. I know the truth. And so do you. Share this video. Thank you so much for all your support.
I'll give you a hint, other Barack. That's what you call yourself. I am the spiritual philanthropist. I am Rav Shiva. You're going to know the truth because I'm exposing it as I speak. And I know because of what I'm saying, there are going to be some pissed off people that are going to they've already attacked me. They've taken everything from me. What I say is come and get some. You know, if you're brave enough to have an open conversation, come and get some. But I know that you only have guerrilla tactics, the bullshit that cowards do. And that's all you are, cowards. Because you can't come and face me on a one-on-one talk. You can continue to attack me. I'm already 55 this year, but thank God, God made me special, so I look fucking great for my age, even though I've had my neck reconstructed, I've had my knee broken, I've had everything on my social media destroyed, my life, my marriage, because of you guys. But guess what? God gave me something very powerful, and it terrifies you, and I'm going to use it on you right now. So if you're brave enough to step up to the table and have a seat and let's talk, and you believe that much in your God and your rhetoric, don't use guerrilla tactics and hide from behind the lines. Come in front, sit in front of me, be brave, show me that you believe in what you have faith in. Stand in front of me. But I don't think you have it in you. I think you're going to continue to suppress, which eventually the truth will come out. My words will get to the people at some point, and I will confront each and every one of you. That means anyone that's speaking things that aren't true in the sense when it comes to humanity, life preservation. Because as a yogi, everything is about me is about life preservation. That means I don't eat meat, I don't eat fish. I don't expect everybody to follow me in what I do. I don't. That's me personally. That's the path that I chose. I realize now that because I chose that path, it is my duty as a spiritual philanthropist to make sure that that message gets through to even you guys. Because at some point your humanity has to kick back in again, and you have to realize what you're doing. And I'm not saying that Hamas is right. I'm saying that both of you have to stop and take a look at each other and have to allow people to speak instead of suppressing them. You only do coercive stuff and covert operations when you can't face someone face to face. Only cowards, run covert operations as far as I'm concerned. In surgical strategic strikes. And who was it? John F. Kennedy, right before they blew his head off, brought that out in the open about the United States government and the FBI and the CIA. Especially the CIA and the United States government. And he was definitely killed partly because of that. But I believe that in the new America that's going to come, that after this one breaks down, it has to reconstruct itself again, and it's not going to be run by people that allow people like these guys to go out and have the ability to say those things. The world will change eventually, guys. It will. But just know, if you're watching and you remember my videos on Bassem Youssef, there was a lot of things involved why I stopped doing videos like that, but I really don't care anymore. I'm back and I'm here to stay. Guys, have a great night. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. I wish everybody the best. I wish your humanity to come back to you and to follow your spirit, be guided by your spirit, not by some ludicrous religion that was written by some man. Get away from religion, guys. We can actually unify on a much larger scale if we break free of the bonds of religion. Alright guys, see you in the next video. I will be making a video where I'm here face to face with you guys, so you can actually see me and hear me at the same time, which they always have tried to mess that up in the past. Let's see if they're going to go beyond those covert tactics and stand up as brave people who supposedly believe in their God. But I think if they truly believed in their God, they wouldn't have to use these tactics that they use. That shows me that they don't really believe in what they preach. That's the number one thing that you should look at. Guys, have a great night. See you in the next video.